Hello, welcome back to our channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally like to talk a lot of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a tower defence game that was released in 2013. We're going to be talking about Carnival Zombie, and in this game you'll be taking control of 6 survivors of a zombie apocalypse in Italy, and you'll be trying to beat back the hordes of infected and several bosses to escape through the streets of Venice by one of several specially crafted finales that will keep you on the seat until the end of the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules, but telling you what we do like, we don't like, then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Carnival Zombie is worth your time and bother today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you after this. So, Carnival Zombie. How do you play this game? So, Carnival Zombie is a tower defence game. There's 6 characters in this game. There's Captain Terror, who is the leader of the group. There's Lady Columbine, who is adept at sort of sniping, funnily enough. You got Heliquin, you got Brighell, which is like the brute of the group. You got Pantaleone, and then you've got Doc Pestilence, who's like the sort of field medic of this ragtag group of survivors, right? So first of all, you've got to get this into your head, right? We ain't going to give you a comprehensive rules overview because this game is quite complex. There's lots of itty bitty rules and we ain't going to go into none of that. So if you're looking for a more comprehensive rules overview, go and watch Jay Plays run through this. Does a fantastic job of that, but we ain't going to do that today, so screw you. So this game takes place over 2 phases. You've got the night phase and then you've got the day phase. In the night phase you're going to be battling back hordes of infected, maybe a few bosses. In the day phase you're going to be running around streets of Venice preparing for the next day. So the night phase is split into 2 parts. The first part of this is you're going to place some terrain tiles onto the board, and you'll notice that the board is split into different sections. You've got the refuge in the centre where all the characters are going to be battling the hordes of infected from. You've got ditches, you've got caves, and you've got rings, and this is where the infected are going to move around trying to get close to you. When they get to the barricades, they're going to blow up the barricades and then they're going to try and kill you when you're in the refuge, right? So like we said, you're going to be placing terrain tiles onto the board, and a lot of these terrain tiles will affect the game in some way. So some of the terrain tiles you might place are, you might place the catacomb, in which case the bosses, all the infected, enter vacant barricade boxes without waiting for the cave's barricades to be destroyed. Nasty stuff, right? You might place the manhole, in which case during the infected entrance, draw and place 1 additional infected or manhole. You might place the jetty, and in this cave bosses and infected are placed in ring 2 instead of ring 3. So these terrain tiles are generally quite bad, but nonetheless this is something you're going to have to deal with during the game, right? One thing you've got to be mindful of is there's a strict turn order in this game. Captain Terror will always go first. He'll always break ties. He'll always make the difficult decisions, right? Captain Terror is going to place barricades you've acquired in the day phase. You'll be placing these in the relevant spots on the board. And then in activation order, starting with Captain Terror and ending with Doc Pestilence, you will then place your characters in relevant spots in the refuge. So then you'll look at the tickets on the side of the board, and this will tell you whether or not to place a boss. You draw a nightmare card, and this will tell you where the boss is going to be placed. So bosses have attached to them a special ability. They are really, really nasty. There's loads of different bosses. Some of the bosses that you might encounter in this game are, you might encounter the Mistress, and her special ability is that a character performing a fire action in the ditch the Mistress is in gains 1 stress. Or you might have the Tenor. If the Tenor is in ring 1 during the attack phase, he destroys all barricades in this cave and in those adjacent. Or you might end up with the Joker, and after a fire action in the ditch of the Joker, draw 1 nightmare card. If a search icon shows infected, all inflicted damage is cancelled. So again, not only have you got to deal with the terrain, you've also got to deal with these nasty bastards that creep up the sewers, you know what I mean? So during this phase you'll also be digging into the bag of infected. There's different types of infected, they all do different things, and you might draw a paranoia cube or you might draw a survivor cube. So if you draw a paranoia cube during the night phase, you do not place a boss because the horde is there, but you will place 1 additional infected in ring 3 space of each cave on the tactical map. So if you draw a survivor cube at this time, you won't place any infected, you actually just chuck the survivor cube back in the box, and this is a nice little bonus when you're up against a wall of shit. So once you've settled the night phase, you actually get in a plan the actual night phase. The first thing you're going to do is each character in turn order is going to be able to use one of their items. Each character has their own deck of items, and you've got to make sure that you look for the sun or the moon icon, because that means that you can only use that item during the day or night phase, right? So Captain Terror might end up using the Leviathan's Horn, in which case he will move one sunken marker to an adjacent location. Or he might end up with the Bradins, in which case he may use any one order twice. So if you've got Harlequin, he might end up with the Pocket Watch, in which case he'll get plus 1 hour during the daytime. Basically, this game is on a timer. The more hours you use, the less time you've got to run through the streets of Venice, and the less time you've got to prepare for the night phase, right? Or Brighell might end up using the hydrochloric acid, in which case he'd be able to clear out the pile of corpses and put back the infected in the abyss, right? So the abyss is basically the bag where you're going to be drawing all the crap from. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw infected from the bag, right? You're going to draw 3 infected, and you will place them in ring 3 of each cave, right? I know caves are the concentric rings that go forward towards the refuge. You draw a paranoia cube, you will then do the same things we mentioned before, and the same with a survivor cube, right? And then the next thing you'll do is the infected and the bosses will then move forward towards the ditch, making you crap your pants and wondering whether or not you're going to have to buy some brain tracers. So once the infected have moved forward, then the characters in strict turn order, once again, they will then be able to take their actions. They'll be able to move to another spot in the refuge. They will be able to take the assault action, in which case they'll be able to attack an infected or a boss that is in a ditch where the character is, and they'll inflict as much damage as their assault value allows them to do. The next thing you'll be able to do is you'll be able to fire. This is basically like a ranged attack. You'll deal the number of shots according to the shot icon within the ranged weapon with the little sort of scope sight thing. It's on your cards, and each shot that hits will be dealt as much damage as is next to the damage icon. So bosses are eliminated if the amount of damage they take is equal to or more than their life value. Infected are eliminated in the same fire or assault action if their damage equals or is more than their life. And what you do when you destroy the infected, you'll pick them up and you will then place them on the pile of corpses, which is like a sort of a tombstone thing. It's sort of like a mini dexterity game. You'll basically pick up the cube and you'll drop it at any height you want onto the pile of corpses. If when doing this any of the infected fall off of the pile of corpses, then you will immediately put them back in play in ring 3 on the main board, right? So you've got to be very careful that your big fat sausage fingers don't screw this up. So the next thing that happens is the bosses and the infected will attack. They're going to attack the barricades first. You're going to get rid of them first, and then they will basically try and kill you, right? So once the bosses and infected have attacked, then you will advance the clock 1 hour clockwise, right? At the end of the dawn hour on the little clock thing, then Captain Terror will then choose an exit strategy. You're going to choose north, south, east or west to leave from. You'll do a little bit of clean up on the main board, like move all the barricades back into the refuge, and then once you've done some more clean up stuff, then you'll advance the calendar to the next day. So this will then lead you on to the day phase, right? The sun has come out and all the zombies have gone to sleep. You reshuffle the Nightmare deck. The Nightmare deck's got loads of information on it. It will basically tell you where to place the terrain markers. It's basically a way of determining random stuff that happens in the game, right? You will then draw one of these Nightmare cards and it will tell you where to place a sunken marker on the city of Venice, because obviously Venice is in peril and you don't want to be stuck up to your ankles in mud, do you? And then you will draw a Nightmare card and apply the event that's listed on it to the game, right? So some of the events that might end up coming back to haunt you is the ransacked shop, and this says a character designated by Captain Terror draws an item card. Nice. Or you might have ingenuity, a character may discard an item card to draw another one. Lovely. Or you might have clear sky, in which case the day lasts 1 hour longer. There's also bad event cards in here. So for instance, you might have the storm clouds and the day lasts 1 hour less. Or you might become fatigued, in which case each character gains 1 stress each time he uses his day ability. So they kind of suck. So once you've applied the crap or no crap at the event, then you'll move through the city of Venice. You'll choose a way to go, but every time you move, you will be reducing the amount of time that's left for you to prepare for the day phase. Like for instance, you might see a +2 or a +1 next to the location you want to move to, and that will basically drain you of valuable time during the day. So then you get to take a certain number of actions. You can rest, in which case you will then remove 2 stress from yourself. Stress is basically sort of damage points. Nobody actually dies in this game, but if you end up being terrorised, if you end up getting the stress marks at the end of the track, you'll be incapacitated and you won't be able to take the actions. You have to be revived during this phase by one of your teammates. You'll be able to add 3 barricades to the refuge, or you can search the nightmare deck for an item. If you do the search action and you draw an item card, you'll be able to choose one card from your item deck. If you draw a survivor, then you'll place 1 survivor in the abyss, which is the bag we talked about, so that increases the chances of not drawing an infected during a round, right? Or you might draw an infected, in which case you'll gain 1 stress. So you'll keep doing this until either you reach one of the finale spots on the Venice map, or the Leviathan awakes at the end of round 4. There's 3 different ways to escape Venice. You can escape over the Freedom Bridge, you can escape via boat, or you can escape via airship. Each one of these acts as like a sort of a mini game. You're going to set up one last fight on the main board. We're not going to go into that. Like we said, go and watch Jay plays. Run through this. He does a better job of explaining all the nuances of the finales. If you don't reach any of those spots by the end of the 4th day, the Leviathan will awake, and you'll have one final mega boss battle against this biblical beast. So it's only one way to win the game. If this happens, you're going to have to prime the holy bomb, which is the only thing that's going to blow up the Leviathan. And if at the end of the night phase, if only one character survives, you don't need to all survive this, then the players will win the game of Carnival Zombie. So what do we like about Carnival Zombie? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the finales are really quite varied. I mean, if they weren't in the game, then basically you'd just be escaping Venice and you go home for a spot of beans on toast, wouldn't you? But the fact that you've got different ways to escape, you could set up like a little mini boat thing. You can escape over the bridge, you can escape via the airship, or you can escape via boat. Each one of these little scenarios has a unique setup, and it gives you a unique way to play the game. So this adds not only extra flavour to the game, but also adds extra replayability. So the second thing that we really like about Carnival Zombie is that the pile of corpses adds a nice little dexterity mini game to this affair, right? When you're starting out going through the initial rounds of this game, you're just going to be dumping the infected onto the pile of corpses willy-nilly, aren't you? Because they're not really going to present any kind of threat. But as the game progresses, as the infected mount up, you're going to be really tentative in the way that you drop these cubes onto this little board. So in a sense, the better you do, the more infected that you kill, the more precarious your situation is going to become. So the next thing that we really like about this game is that it's got a wonderful bunch of characters in there. They're almost like anti-heroes, aren't they? I mean, for instance, the main geezer is called Captain Terror, and they all look kind of nasty in their own way. There's something quite endearing about these characters, right? The fact that they all come with their own equipment deck and they're all thematically linked to the flavour of the characters is another thing that we really like about this game. And the artwork of this game is unique as well. It's like sketches rather than this computer generated stuff that you see today. So yeah, we really like the ambience and the aesthetic of this game and all. So final thing that we like about this game is that running through the city of Venice is actually quite fun. I mean, okay, the map of Venice is really, really small. And when you open this up, you look, well, you know, is that it? Is that all you're going to be doing? But when you're choosing which way to go, using up the hours that you've got, the valuable hours that you've got to try and navigate through Venice in the most efficient and safest way possible, it kind of evokes the same feeling as Left 4 Dead, the video game, right? And this game is probably as close as you're going to get to the same feeling of trying to escape the horde, right? So what don't we like about Carnival Zombie? So the first thing that we don't like about Carnival Zombie is that the rulebook sucks. The rulebook sucks. So the next thing that we don't like about Carnival Zombie is that the cubes do detract from the thematic nature of this game. Okay, this was done in 2013. It's a European game, right? We didn't have the Kickstarter madness that we got today. This is getting a second edition. They have put it on Kickstarter last year with some miniatures. We don't know much about that. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but as it stands, this game as it stands today, the cubes are pretty shit. So the final thing that we don't like about Carnival Zombie is that the game is kind of lopsided in terms of how many characters each player is going to be controlling. If you're playing with 4 players, then obviously everyone's going to get 1 player and 2 players are going to be in control of 2. The rulebook does say that the player that is controlling Captain Terror should take control of the extra characters. So this game is kind of lopsided if you're playing with 4 or 5 players. It's like a double-edged sword really, because where all the characters are quite finely balanced, if they had, say, neutered a couple of characters for the 4-player or 5-player version and make it a little bit more of an even spread, then that would have made the game a little bit weaker, wouldn't it? But the fact that 1 or 2 players are going to be taking control of more characters, and the fact that they're going to have more input and more options and more decisions to make, sort of sucks, doesn't it? So to summarise, is Carnival Zombie worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we are going to say yes, absolutely. This is a wonderful tower defence game. If not our favourite tower defence game of all time, it fits into that slot in between Dawn of the Zeds on one side and Castle Panic on the other. Whilst Dawn of the Zeds is infinitely more complex. Okay, it does hold your hand through loads of rulebooks. When you get to the full games, it's really, really complicated. But Castle Panic is like a gateway game. This occupies an area in between the two. So maybe once you play Castle Panic, you can move on to this, and once you've explored Carnival Zombie quite a lot, you can maybe move on to Dawn of the Zeds, right? It does suffer from a shitty translation and a shitty rulebook, and the components of this one are starting to show their age. Well, they were sort of starting to show their age back in 2013, weren't they? But the fact that this uses cubes is a bit poo. But having said that, there is a second edition in the works, allegedly. It hasn't seen the light of day yet. It's been delayed for, I don't know, what is it, 2 years now? But once that does come out, that should address any of the issues that we got with this game. And if that is true, then there really is no excuse for not picking up this wonderful, wonderful tower defence game, Carnival Zombie. So there you go, that's Carnival Zombie. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down there, and we'll see you next time.